Guys, apologize for the little delay here. Lots of information obviously been coming in the last day or so with the Red Wings. Lots of changes going on, so I don't know how fans feel about this. We saw some comments. I hope you guys can jump back in. And this is a great question. Dylan McLaughlin, is he any good? And a seventh. This means we lost the Mantha trade. For a trade that definitely looked like originally the Red Wings won, this is definitely in question. So maybe where we start here is this has been a whirlwind of activity at the trade deadline, specifically for the Red Wings. So, the first thing is 3 players dealt. The first one was a shock to me, which was Filip Hronek. You kind of almost thought, like, if anything, they would have made a decision on Filip Zadina saying, hey, this guy does not fit. Why would Filip Hronek be in this conversation? This guy's a 25-year-old defenseman, anchors the second pairing, plays 21 minutes a night, which chews up a lot of ice time. Physically strong guy, can contribute offensively, plays on the power play, no problem, can kill penalties, can do everything. Like, this is a tough type of defenseman to get, was a second-round pick that's really turned out. So dealing him, they did get a lot. They get a first and a second, but I mean, this is way in the future. He's a right shot defenseman. I don't see anybody in the organization that's replacing him. You look at Simon Edvinsson, he's brewing in the AHL and needs time from what we saw. He's a left shot defenseman. So this one really kind of shocked me. Hi, Intertap. Good morning. Vrana being dealt. We can talk about that. Good morning, RJ Calabro. Apologize, guys. We did start. I am a little bit lucky. It's a little bit surprising. So the Hronek deal, as I've stated, very confusing to me. I realize people are saying, oh, they got a lot for him. He's a young defenseman. This is not a 28 or 30-year-old guy. He's able to play at a high level in the NHL, and you don't know, is there upside on him? So there's something about this that we don't know. I don't understand. Ben Sherrod has not been a great fit, and it's not like a right shot defenseman. What am I missing? He's like 6 years younger than Ben Sherrod, I think, right? So the winner of that one, in my opinion, is Vancouver. And people are like, we overpaid for Hronek. Go to Vancouver's roster. Quinn Hughes, if that's your number one defenseman, who's your number two? The second pairing suddenly has a guy to anchor. It's Filip Hronek, and that was Detroit, and that was no longer Detroit. The Wings already had a ton of space, too. So what's going to happen here? I am not sure. Are they going to go on some sort of a spree? Most teams are locking up players, right? Like their best players are being locked up. And I would have thought he would have been part of the equation, but I guess not. So what you're going to get, and the pick they got was the New York Islanders pick. So look at what Vancouver did with Bo Horvat. They got Anthony Beauvillier. They now get Filip Hronek with that pick. And they had Adurati. What? Okay, and Adurati, I think, has turned out pretty damn good. He's looking like he could be a second or real good third line center in the NHL. He's a big guy. Islanders did a good job maturing him. He had a real good World Junior after having a shaky one. Vancouver's kicking ass, no matter what anybody says. I mean, Beauvillier is got 11 points in 11 games in Vancouver. He is matching Bo Horvat. New Jersey acquires Curtis Lazar, not a huge acquisition. The Bolts checking Klingberg. Ugh, I don't know. This guy's terrible. But, in a very strong team like Tampa, he's a veteran guy. They want defensive depth. If you look at how they won 2 cups, it was with 9 defensemen, 9 NHL defensemen. Because, if you're going through all those playoff rounds, guys are getting tired and hurt, they sometimes would dress 7 defensemen, first of all. Second, when guys went down for injury, there was a very capable replacement, and that's always been part of their equation. Same thing with the third and fourth line. They know the king pieces are in place, right? The Stamkoses, the Kucherovs, the Points, even guys like Kaloran, those are the big king pieces, and then they fill in the third and fourth lines on the forward lines with like the Hagels, with the Nick Pauls. Like those things work out really well. Now Tanner Jeannot. I don't get this. You had So, are they assessing that I think Filip Hronek was what, 5 million, 5.5? And so what would he resign at 7? Is that not worth a guy that chews up 21 minutes a night and gets 40 points, 45 points, 9, 10 goals? I mean, at one point he was point a game when he was, early, and that kind of fell off a little bit, but he's still good defensively. So again, I think Vancouver has done very well in the Bo Horvat trade. Detroit getting the New York Islanders pick, which, there's what if they make the playoffs, what is that pick? 17th? And I don't care what anybody says. You look at if it's from this draft, you tell me who the defensemen are in that draft. There's not a single defenseman in the top 10. That means there's no first line defenseman. There's no number 1, 2, or 3. And Filip Hronek is arguably a number 2 or 3. All right, so that's that deal. Vrana, this is a weird one too. Like, I feel like, so what was originally a W is kind of feeling like an L here, right? And maybe that was just inevitable. We know that we had problems. So Jakub Vrana goes to St. Louis. They get back a 7th round draft pick in McLaughlin. This guy's obviously damaged goods. There's something going on there. People are like, oh, you don't want to give up on a person. He went through the player assistance program for 2 months. They sent him to the AHL. They never reintegrated him to the lineup. This was a guy they were counting on for 25, 30 goals. He looked like he had a good camp, but then you saw him in interviews and he was a mess. You could tell. So whatever they're assessing here, this guy's high risk and he's got a big salary. So they dumped some salary. They've opened up space. Simon Edmondson, I am not convinced of that. And yes, you're right. Let's not forget Elmer Soderblom. Let's not forget Marco Kasper. So is there room for Tyler Bertuzzi in the future? Is there room for Jakub Vrana? Probably not. So you look at one-to-one trade, fine, but it's bought time for these guys to develop. And on the forward line, you got Marco Kasper, and Elmer Soderblom should be in the NHL. This guy could be an 18, 20 goal scorer right now. Period. He has no reason to be. And you look last night, Jonathan Bergman scored his 12th goal of the season. He's played, 44 games? So you got a 20, 25 goal scorer already there. And I think maybe that's part of what this assessment is. So, you hate to give up pieces, but maybe this is a good thing. They had a lot of depth. They got them through injuries early in the year. And they're like, hey, we didn't rely on Vrana. We didn't rely on Tyler Bertuzzi this year. We don't need, $11 million in salary. And the one I just don't get is the Filip Hronek trade. So maybe I'm missing something. Yeah, and that's fine. There is a trade deadline summary. I'm going to plug my laptop in. So I don't know. What do you guys think about, first of all, the Tyler Bertuzzi trade? They get a lot back. They get a first and a second, I believe, back from Boston. Boston has some uncertainty all of a sudden. Right? Boston has Taylor Hall injured. Is Krejci injured? Because he got hit the other night pretty bad. One sec, sorry. Or my laptop dies here. I think that's a question, right? Boston needed Tyler Bertuzzi. The coach fist bumped the GM literally, if you read the article. Tyler Bertuzzi scored 30 goals last year. He's had 2 other prior 21 goal seasons, I believe. Was what he had? 21? 20? Yeah, I think he had 2 21 goal seasons. He will be missed. He is, when he's healthy, really, really good player, but he's 28. He made $4.8 million this year. You've got to think logically, like Enertap was saying, maybe someone needs to sign this guy to 6 years, 36 to 42 million. There's some question mark about his health just based upon what happened this year. I think he had 2 or 3 surgeries in the last 12 months. At least had 2. So at 28, if you're going to sign him to 6 years, he's going to be going to 34, 36 years old, depending if it's 6 to 8 years and what that amount is. So they're making that assessment. And, we got Kasper coming. Kasper looks like he might be NHL ready. We can't retain more caps. So does it mean we're done trading? Are you saying that we're at the floor? When you say retain any more cap, or are you saying retaining salary of players that are leaving? And did they retain on the Vrana deal? Yeah, so this is risky, right? So this is important that they got Tyler Bertuzzi, and hopefully Bertuzzi stays healthy for Boston. That's what they're hoping, right? And they paid a big price really for a guy that's going to be unrestricted free agent. And they'll make a determination, can this guy fit long-term salary-wise? And did they want a guy that's 6-8 years? They're going to love him. You know, he's better than a Nick Foligno. He arguably he's shown he can play on top two lines in a lot of teams. I don't know if that's gonna he'll play will he play top two lines here? I don't know. He will now with Hall out, but then what? Does he become a third liner in Boston? That's possible. You know, or did they need a winger? They might have needed a winger. Because you've got on the top line, obviously Pasta signed his $90 million contract. What do you think about that? David Pasternak signs 90 mil. That guy's a stud, and that's a good deal. 8 years, 90 mil, take it. Good morning from Denver, sir. Oof, that's not good. Retaining cap from traded players. So let's take a look even at that. Curtis Lazar for a 4th-round pick. No big. That's interesting. That's a depth player there. Dylan McLaughlin. Don't think this guy will ever play in the NHL, and they retain 50%. So that's what you're talking about. So this is obviously like gone down that path, and that's what it is. So that's really interesting. Antu Khudobin, is he even playing anywhere? I thought he retired. He's hurt, right? He's finished, isn't he? They get a 2nd-round pick for Max Domi. I thought is Anton Khudobin even playing? I thought he was finished. I don't know. He's playing for the Texas Stars. What? He played 24 games for the Stars. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Maybe he'll get some NHL games. To answer the question on Dylan McLaughlin, I just don't think this guy's ever going to play. He's a 1995 birth year. He's an AHL player. He played for the Springfield, and he played for Rock. He only played 1 game for Springfield, or 6 games for Springfield, and had 1 goal. He's not an NHL guy. This is not a prospect, right? He's 27 years old, never going to be in the NHL. So this is basically taking an asset back and a late draft pick. Whew. I mean, not that Anthony Mantha is the greatest player ever, but you know that's not great. It is what it is. I think this is just the situation, and Vrana burned his bridges one way or the other, and they wanted to dump that salary. So that's that. See if there are any other surprises here. I don't think so. All right, so if you look specifically, let's go to Detroit. Jesus. All this money. 35 million in current cap space, guys. Are they at the floor? Are they at the minimum? I don't know. It's like Jesus. So, I mean, what effectively has really changed here? Not much. We know we have Fabry's drawn back into the lineup. He's $4 million a year. That's a pretty good contract. Pius Suter, will he be re-signed? Unclear, but he's having a pretty good year all of a sudden. Like they're giving him responsibility, and that's turned out okay. Kubalik, 2nd leading scorer on the team still, I believe, only 2.5 million. He's very inconsistent up and down the lineup. They have Filip Zadina at a very cheap 1.8 million in limited action. He's been pretty good. They're going to have to sign Lucas Raymond at some point. That'll be dictated based upon next year's performance, is my assumption. They still have lots of time and rights with that. No pressure there. Joe Veleno, RFA. What I don't see here is what Rasmussen's contract is, but I think that's 1.8 or something, right? So what do you got in the minors? You got 2 players. You got 1 guy in Sweden, which is Marco Kasper. You got to think he's going to be on the lineup sooner than later. Elmer Soderblom, Simon Edmondson. Those are the guys that are earmarked, and Albert Johansson might be ready. I don't know how Jared McIsaac is and if he's good enough to steal a job from anybody. So then we go back up and we just look at the draft picks they now have. in the upcoming draft. They have their first round draft pick and the New York Islanders. They have 3 second round draft picks, their own, St. Louis's, and now Vancouver's. So Stevie Yzerman's obviously bullish on this draft. And then as part of the Bertuzzi trade next year, they have a conditional first round pick. I don't know what the conditions are in that. So they have potentially 2 first round draft picks in 2024. That would be the 2006 birth year. How do I feel about the 2006 birth year? I think that arguably this draft year, which contains 3 players that are 2004 overagers, you know them, Carlson, Fantilli, and Michkov. Those players were born after September 15th in 2004, so they go now with the 2005. So we all look back at the draft where it had Slavkovsky and Nemec and Shane Wright and Logan Cooley, and we go, oh, it's weak. Well, it's weak because the 3 best players that are 2004 birth year are actually going with the 2005. So that's just a fluke, right? So arguably, this is a pretty damn good draft. They're not going to get anyone with that. Could they get, if they miss the playoffs, Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, Michkov? They could. I don't know how he keeps screwing around with the draft rules, but they should get a top. They could get a top 10 pick here, which would be pretty decent. This is most likely not, which would be okay, but I think these are 3rd, 4th line guys. I mean, I don't see any top 6 after the top 11 in the draft. So, but they pull out things like Jonathan Berggren as the 2nd round pick, and now you got a 25 goal scorer. So the first observation is they don't need Jakub Vrana. They have Elmer Soderblom. They don't need Tyler Bertuzzi. They have Jonathan Berggren. They have upside with Marco Kasper, and they have upside with oh my God, why am I blank? Well, it's really those 2 guys, right? Elmer Soderblom, Marco Kasper, Jonathan Berggren, all very close. And Cross Hannes is pretty good. He may be better than I thought. Will be an NHLer. I think it'll be, kind of borderline. But I don't know, he's pretty good. Cross Hannes looks like he has a lot of potential there. And I think they're really happy with him. So that might be in the back of their mind as a dark horse. Where it gets dicey for me is the defense. So I don't get this. You got Moritz Seider, who will eventually need a contract, but you still have him 1 more year at $863. He is your star. So you would think they're going to extend him sooner than later to get a cheaper price. It's going to be $8 million. Right? Let's be honest. They just signed Jake Waldman to 3.4. They're saying this guy's in our top 4. All the amount is in our top 4. Ben Sherratt we're committed to for 4.7. I don't want to give Filip Hronek $7 million. That's what they're saying. None of those guys are right shot except for Seider, right? Jordan Osterley at 1.3 is unrestricted. He would be a bottom 6 player. So what they're saying here is, based on even just money, our top 4 need to be Sherratt, Mantha, Wallman, and Seider. That's arguably better with Filip Hronek in there than Ben Sherratt, in my opinion. And that's just what it is. But he has a no movement clause, and they're on the hook for it, and that is that. And that's big boy games, right? So then they're going to have to figure out how to improve the right side. They're going to have to figure out when Simon Edvinsson is ready for the NHL. And there's another guy, Albert Johansson probably can play, but he's another left shot defenseman. The other guy that's not in here is William Wallander, and he's having a real good season. So arguably, the forward things don't surprise me. Great question. He's had a very good year in Sweden by all accounts, so he might not be that far. You would think he would come over, play in the AHL, and figure it out. He's a big guy, 6'4", 6'5". He can skate. So that's pretty good. Wow, lots of comments, guys. Sorry. Let's get up. So the Vegas, Jets, and Kraken in JVR. What did you think of the Jonathan Quick deal? You knew something was up there. Jonathan Quick is angry. And if you look last year, Jonathan Quick was 23-13, had a 2-something goals against average and a 910 save percentage, or a 908. Not bad. The X factor, Jonathan Quick. This guy's won 3 Stanley Cups, and he's angry. And that's to Vegas's benefit. You just don't know. Look at what Carey Price did. He brought the Montreal Canadiens on his limping knee to the Stanley Cup final. That's an X factor that Vegas did not have. But they definitely need some offense. They don't have Max Pacioretty. Mark Stone, we're speculating, will be back for the playoffs in a Kucherov type move. So yeah, retain 50% of the Vrana contract. We took a look at that. Bertuzzi will not leave Boston, really. But I guess this is my question is, do they have room for him? I mean, you're right. You would think he would stay. I would rather have him than Nick Foligno. Ooh, what'd they do here? Oh man, they really messed this up, guys. He would be. Oh, here we go. Line combos. So you look at Boston suddenly. Where does Bertuzzi fit in? Jake DeBrusk, Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron. He's not knocking anyone else out there, unless it's Jake DeBrusk, but that's unlikely. Who's really turned out pretty good. Pavel Zacha, they signed to a contract this year, and he's having a really good year. Does Zacha move to the third line? Maybe. Krejci, Pasternak. Now the fourth line, Charlie Coyle's real good. Bertuzzi and Zach are both obviously better than Frederick and Greer. This gives them a lot of depth. Young Jakub Vrana had 2 goals last night on his birthday. The Czech-born player is a little bit older, and he looks pretty darn good. I think he's got 3 goals in 12 NHL games. So maybe this is a dark horse guy to help. Garnet Hathaway, he's a third, fourth line guy. So no matter what, they get better with Bertuzzi. But what you don't see here is Taylor Hall. So you throw Taylor Hall back into that. He's not going to knock Taylor Hall off this line. So now you've got a third line of Coyle, Zacha, and Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi is not going to stay in Boston for $7 million a year. Is Krejci and Bergeron gone? Maybe that's it, but you don't know with those guys. So I'm not sure for sure, Intertap, if he stays. And they still have Nick Foligno on that salary cap, and I haven't looked closely at that, but that's a question mark. Let's just recount from last night. Detroit lost in overtime to the Seattle Kraken. Not a bad game for them. I don't think Seattle's... Do you think Seattle's going to make the playoffs? I mean, they're in a position to be in the playoffs, but they're dropping. Detroit pulls out a point in overtime. But they've really lost 4 games in a row. Starting with the Tampa game, 2 games back-to-back in Ottawa. Ottawa won last night over the New York Rangers. Ottawa's making a hardcore playoff push here, guys. Yeah, there's still, I think there's only like 500 or 600 grand on that, so that's not a big deal. Yeah, done paying him? Yes, he's done. Apparently, he's not even going to Grand Rapids, staying in Springfield. Yeah, he's not. I don't even know why they made this move. It's a salary thing. Heavy trade talk with LA, Philip Lemieux for Zach McEwen. That's weird. What is it about Brendan Lemieux people don't like, besides being him? I couldn't call the trade a complete loss. They traded Panik for the Isles for Nick Leddy, and then you got the Sundqvist and Wallman. That is a good point. I was going to ask, because I know there was the Panik deal, and we've robbed St. Louis of how many players? Wallman's now a top 4 defenseman. Sundqvist is a top 9 guy that's really useful, can move up and down the lineup in different roles, including on the power play sometimes. And then this guy, this Husso trade, they traded him, and then they signed Grice in St. Louis. So essentially, it was kind of like a swap of goalies and a draft pick. Total steal by the Red Wings. And then there's the Robbie Fabry deal. Total steal. The guy that Robbie Fabry was traded for isn't even in the NHL anymore, right? Jacob Delarose or whatever. P.S. Suter has been doing real well, but he is unrestricted next year. And you got to look at him and go, is this in our long-term plans? This guy came from Chicago for nothing. Kubalik came from Chicago for nothing. Chicago, what a disaster. I mean, just a disaster. Kirby Doc, these guys, Now they get very little, obviously, for whatever reasons, which, who cares? Like, they're not hitting a home run with the Patrick Kane move to the Rangers. Patrick Kane lost in his debut last night. What'd you guys think about that? And I think that he's probably another year or two away, but he's very close. He's closer than I thought. Good morning, Run with Kings. Lemieux for McEwen is now confirmed. That's great. It's a minor deal, but I think that's a much bigger player, right? McEwen's a very big, tough guy. Lemieux can score a little bit, and he's a rat. Yeah, that's a great arena. I've been there multiple times. I love that arena. Would the team with the first pick trade the Wings for? What do you mean by this? Like the first overall pick? No, no one's going to do that. It would have to be lottery. Bonjour, monsieur. Mon ami. Chris Illich. Yeah, I don't know. Adam Henrique to Ottawa. Ottawa's going all in here, and you see why. They beat the Rangers last night. They're in now contention clearly with 66 points. Do they have 66 points? We can take a look at that. Ottawa is the real deal all of a sudden. 66 points in 61 games. They have 3 games in hand on the Islanders. So they would have to win all 3 to leapfrog them. They have to win 2 of 3 to tie them, basically. And that would put them at 33 wins. So they would actually leapfrog the Islanders. So they need to win 2 of the next 3, and then they're right in that playoff position, assuming, Buffalo has a game in hand. Buffalo's lost 2 in a row. The roller coaster continues in Buffalo, up and down and up and down. Detroit, you can see in free fall down here. But it's okay, I think. They had they had a good month of February, but this is probably more important that they're in contention for a lottery pick, maybe, potentially. I'm not sure if they'll be that bad. But right now, you got to say they don't care about making the playoffs. They have young pieces with upside like Berggren, Elmer Soderblom, Marco Casper, Simon Edmondson. That's the future. Lucas Raymond's next step in his development. That's the future. How good can Rasmussen get? Can Zadina be a regular contributor? Those are the questions they're answering. They've committed to their captain. Ottawa's time is now. You could see that head to head. Tim Stützle's better than Larkin. Brady Tkachuk is way better than Larkin. Those are the franchise pieces there. Shane Pinto looks really good. Alex DeBrincat's an excellent player. Claude Giroux is playing in a secondary role and producing big time because of it. Look at the defense. They made a big move to get Jacob Chychrun. We always say Jeff, it's his dad. Jacob Chychrun in Ottawa. And now they're talking about getting some more pieces. Ottawa is ready. And we're not even talking about Josh Norris, who is out. And you could see that head to head. They have leapfrogged. They are better than Detroit. Why? They finished lower at one point, and now they're leapfrogging. And we keep seeing this. The Rangers finished lower, leapfrog, right? Like, just crazy. He's not going to Columbus, sir. He has been traded from the Columbus Blue Jackets to the Las Vegas Golden Knights, and he is going to be in the playoffs, and that is very dangerous because he is a very angry person right now. And I was looking at his numbers. And if you look at Jonathan Quick's numbers, and they're actually not as horrible as I remember. And he's been relatively healthy. So as bad as a year as he has had, which he has, you can see here, 876 is not NHL numbers, but just a year ago, he was a 910 save percentage. And he had 7 shutouts. What? No, that's wrong. That can't be right. Oh, that's not 7. That's playoff games. 2 shutouts. Okay. 259 goals. If he had these numbers this year, they're winning in spite of these numbers. But he's only 11 and 13. Last year he was 23 and 13. This is a very motivated man. He's won, 2 Stanley Cups with the LA Kings, right? but he could be a guy that takes workload. They know that they have an injury right now to Rookie of the Year candidate Dylan. What's his last name? Not Lachlan. Why am I last name? What's the goalie in Vegas? Jeez. Logan Thompson. I'm sorry. I was going to say Dylan Thompson. Boissault is also hurt. So it's basically Aiden Hill and Jonathan Quick right now. So this was a good move. You know, why not? You got an angry Jonathan Quick. Good move. It's more than that, though. It's Jonathan Quick is pissed. And that's a guy you don't want pissed. That can awaken the giant. And he could be like Carey Price, where he just says, screw this. I am winning every game. I'm stopping every puck. And we saw last year's capable of it. It sucks to see him go, agreed. And they just they created an enemy. Yeah, lots of trades. I mean, there's a lot of shakeup for sure. No. Quick was traded to the Blue Jackets, and then the Blue Jackets traded him to Las Vegas Golden Knights Trout. I think the Sens are going to make the playoffs. I think they win 2 of the next 3 games. They take New York Islanders' spot. Buffalo remains like a question mark, and then they go hard to the end. They got Jacob Chikrin. What else do they do here? They were saying that they might grab another player. Who was it? Was it JVR? No, that was Winnipeg. Ooh, so many comments, guys. Let's queue up. Saros apparently is available. What? Oh my God. If Edmonton got Saros, come on. Forget about it. Would you trade Stuart Skinner to get UC Saros? Maybe, right? Saros is arguably a top 10 goalie in the NHL, maybe better. Maybe top 7. We have to go looking through it. Like, in the right scenario, this guy is like, he's better than either of the goalies they have. Stuart Skinner is showing he's a legitimate NHL goalie, and he can be really good. He's a big prototypical goalie. Saros is not. What does it take to get Saros? Edmonton ain't going to fight anybody. Edmonton's going to leapfrog people. I know they're only 500, but Edmonton is going to make a push. You watch. No, I don't think it does. You know, I think that's a good point that you brought back. You took the pick for Hronek. Is that what you got Nick Leddy for from the Islanders? And then you flipped Leddy and you got Wallman and Sundqvist, and you still have a second-round pick. So no. Still win. And that's, I think, part of the equation, right? We get upset because we lose assets that we see that are tangible. But then you look at what we showed you on the draft, like picks that they have, and it's crazy. Or because of him. Devils traded for Lazar. Nobody cares about that. It's the association. Claude is pretty cool. Claude is like a top player agent. Did you guys know that? Claude Lemieux is a player agent. Why? Why would the Canucks be starting rough next season? I'm not sure about that. They absolutely have done very well with the Bo Horvat move. Anthony Beauvillier is showing he can score in the NHL. He is scoring at the same pace. He's got 11 points in 11 games since coming over from the New York Islanders. He was buried in a plodding New York Islanders system. Goes to Vancouver a little bit more wide open, playing real well. And he's got some guts. He's got some speed. He's not that old. He's 25, 26, right? Somewhere around there. Who's over the cap? Vancouver's over the cap? Are they? Huh. Interesting. How the heck are they over the cap? Patrick Elias contract cheap, and they still have restricted rights to him. So Brock Besser, you would think would be in play. Does anybody want to grab him? I don't get it. Like, I thought he was a pretty decent player, but offensively, he's had some good years. JT Miller, that contract kicks in next year, and that's a big problem now suddenly. Connor Garland, that contract does not look so great right now. Beauvillier, 4.1, he's showing he's worth that. Kuzmenko kicks in at 5.5. That is worth every dime. He has been terrific. Podkolzin really regressed this year. We know they picked up Kravtsov. Does he stay there? Unclear. He might go to the KHL. Adu Radi looks like he's panned out. So they've done very well in the Bo Horvat trade with those two guys. Quinn Hughes, Tyler Myers, Filip Hronek. That's your 1, 2, 3. Tyler Myers at $6 million next year. Looking pretty expensive. He's 33. But man, there's a drop off after those top three. So maybe not. And there's nobody. There's actually nobody. UFA Kyle Burrows, RFA, former Everett Silvertip Noah Juleson. So they have some salary drop off, but not much. They actually have a lot of salary add. And that's probably what you're talking about. That is ugly. You got to think they got to do something with this. What do you do with Connor Garland? Nobody's going to want that. What do you do with JT Miller? That kicks in at $8 million. He's not young. Whew. The Brock Besser thing. Brock Besser would be the best candidate there. So you're right. That is crazy. Sens are fool's gold. You think so? Why? That team is really good. Who has a better defensive core right now in the NHL? Look at the Senators now with the Jakob Chychrun trade. Jakob Chychrun changes the outlook in Ottawa because he's such a high-end piece. It's not that he's going to save them. Look at the first line. Claude Giroux, Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk. Shane Pinto looking really good. Drake Batherson is kind of like an Alex Killorn type player. Alex DeBrincat, we know at least he's going to get 25 goals, maybe 28. The third line's not bad. Matthew Joseph, big, fast. Julian Gauthier, big, fast. Dylan Gambrell, serviceable, right? Derek Brassard. Austin Watson scored 2 goals the other night. But look at this defense, guys. Thomas Chabot, Artem Zub, Jake Sanderson might be Rookie of the Year. Travis Hamonic, you forget about him. And then Jakob Chychrun. What? And he's only at $4.5 million a year or 4.3 with Nick Holden. That is a very good defense, guys. Now, I realize Travis Hamonic probably bumps down in this scenario. And Jakob Chychrun can play the right side, we know, but that's not preferred. As a coach, you want left shot, left side. Things happen in the NHL so fast. You don't want guy in his off wing on the D. Yeah. Right now, they have the 2 of their goalies are hurt, and they're down to Quick and Aiden Hill. I think so. Right? And they're known for their offense, not their defense. Even though they have 2 great defensive players, 3 great defensive players, or 2 great defensive players, and then another really good one in Samuelson. So Dahlin, young power is really good. I think he'll be definitely in consideration along with Jake Sanderson for Rookie of the Year. I would have said Logan Thompson, which I have said at the beginning of the year was in the mix. And you got to think Matty Beniers probably gets it, but I don't think it's a given. I got to think the Sens are going to be in good shape here, guys. Exactly. Now it's 11 years ago, but this guy is one of those guys. Look at LA. They've been telling us for 2 years we could win a cup. That's what they've been telling us with their moves, right? Aggressive moves. They've leapfrogged Detroit, but they did it by keeping Doughty and keeping Kopitar. And then they brought in Fiala. They brought in Philip Deneau. They just made the moves for Gavrikov and then Joonas Korpisalo. That team's retooled. They got a ton of young prospects. Byfield's getting some time. 15 players today. Jesus. No, they did not want to see him go. However, as the general manager, Rob Blake made a decision, and he probably upgraded the goaltending. However, they did create an enemy, and that's a very dangerous enemy. There you go. Claude Lemieux is Mo Sider's agent. They're sad to see him go. For sure, Kopitar, Doughty, those are the holdovers there, right? Everyone else is kind of new. That would be a crazy series. Bjorn fought in 2 firsts. Why wouldn't you do that? Bjorn fought is a good defenseman. Now he's small. So maybe he doesn't fit in, but I don't know. He's a pretty good defenseman. I think that's a good man. 2 firsts and Bjornfot, but you got to think the firsts are late. That's more. I thought, man, that's a pretty good deal. They must have assessed that the other picks were from Ottawa would be lower than the LA Kings and worth more. That would be a fun series. So, Detroit ostensibly have played most of the year without Tyler Bertuzzi. They've played most of the year without, well, all the year pretty much without Jakub Vrana. The puzzling one for me remains Filip Hronek, which I think you see on the salary side, they're locked in with a no movement clause for Ben Sherratt. They've committed to Jake Wallman. They're gonna play Sherratt on the right side with Mantha. And for better or for worse, that's what's gonna happen. Big age difference. I think they gave up a real good player at $5.5 million. He'll probably get a $7 million contract, but he plays 21 minutes a night and he's a 40-point guy. Fits in really well and helps. He's probably the number 2 or number 3. He's probably the number 2 defenseman. He's better than Tyler Myers at this point. He's younger, more offense, and he's cheaper, but he'll probably get the same money eventually. So Vancouver definitely wins the whole Bo Horvat move with this. Detroit gets a lot of assets that, in a sense, is overpaid for Hronek, but I don't think so. I think that's a difficult piece to pay, replace. But there's upside still. We have not damaged. There's no Marco Kasper leaving. There's no Jonathan Berger leaving. You don't even see Elmer Soderblom. Filip Zadina is showing signs of life here. We don't see Michael Rasmussen. You would think they would move P.S. Suter. He's been having a real good year. Would be useful on a playoff team, and they would get an asset back that maybe they get a second or a third pick. You never know. He's been useful. He's been good Detroit Red Wing, but he's unrestricted. He's at 3 points and I can't see them retaining him. Fabry's playing really well. So, really just the one piece, but you get the math and they move on and they have a ton of assets. Just a ton. So many assets in Detroit. Lots of money, tons of money, $35 million, 2 firsts each of the next 2 years, 3 second rounds this year. And then even deep in the rounds, like a couple fourths, couple sevenths. Those aren't going to help us much. But you can see here, you're going to have 4 new assets that are A or B prospects coming into an organization that already has Marco Kasper, already has Jonathan Bergeron, already has Elmer Soderblom that was like a late draft pick that's turned into an A prospect. It's not a prospect. This guy can play now. He has no business being in the AHL. Maybe Filip Zadina justifies a $1.8 million contract as a third-line guy that gets 15 goals a year, 20 goals a year. You never know. He looks like he can do that, and he's good defensively. He's very talented. If he plays the way the coach wants, arguably that's a good piece if that pans out. Sad to see Filip Hronek go, but you're not going to get a Ben Sherratt. You're not going to be able to get rid of him. And that's what it is. That is all she wrote. Nemenstikov traded to Winnipeg. This is not a bad move. Nemenstikov's offense is very much like Marcus Johansson. It's not consistent. He's a third line guy that can play. He can play all 3 forward positions. He was a good Detroit Red Wing, but not great. No punch to his game. He's a veteran. That would help Winnipeg, I think. Winnipeg needs another D. Don't you think? Vegas will take first place, and Kings will play Edmonton or Seattle first round. You should be impressed with Edmonton. Edmonton, I don't get why anybody wouldn't be. They are ramping up for one thing. They made to the third round last year. All they care about is getting to the Stanley Cup final. That is all. Their eyes are on the prize. There are little, gems they will pick up along the way. We win this. We got in the playoffs. McDavid scores 70 goals. You don't know, right? He's already got 50. Will he get 60? Probably. Will he get 70? You never know. Because one thing about McDavid is the last 10 games of the year, he does not slow down. He does not pack it in. You look at his numbers. He ramps it up. A 150-point season is not out of the pace for him. Who cannot be impressed with? I don't get how you could not be impressed with Edmonton right now. Zach Hyman, career year. Derek Ryan, I have no idea why he's up there. Connor McDavid, Yamamoto, not great. I get it. Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins. Who are you not seeing here? Evander Kane. You throw Evander Kane into this mix, that's a different scenario. You still have Dylan Holloway in the mix. Warren Fogel's been playing real well. McLeod's playing real well. Janmark's been a useful piece. Desharnais playing forward is crazy because I think he's he's been playing defense. He's a monster. 6'7", mean as heck. Who did he whack on the back the other night? Was it against Boston? He literally just didn't like something he did and just whacked him in the back with a stick, did not care. Came back out and destroyed him afterwards. Kim Clauston made it very possible to trade Puya Harvey. Does Kelly Yamamoto get out of there? You'd like to see that, but I think he's just holding, the spot for Evander Kane. So suddenly you have Zach Hyman, Connor McDavid, Evander Kane, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl. But you probably mix this up a little bit. You have lots of options there. You have two superstars here. You've got a guy that's over point a game, career year. He's having a really good year. There's depth scoring here. And they just got Nick Bjugstad. Lots of options in this lineup, especially when you throw in Evander Kane. Darnell Nurse, Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, Philip Broberg. I like Brett Kulak. I am not a Cody Ceci fan, but he is serviceable. And Desharnais to me is an X factor. Do they get one more defenseman? You might want to see them get another guy. Ryan Murray's not going to help you. That's been a bust. You would like to see them make another move here, maybe. And if they get Saros, like they already made their big move to get Campbell. It doesn't have to be perfect in Edmonton, right? They got Stuart Skinner. They got Jack Campbell. Skinner's a good goalie, man. That's a good goalie. Which trade is official? Oh, for Nemenstikov. I don't know why you wouldn't be impressed with this team. Evander Kane trade totally has turned out, aside from a freak injury. Nugent Hopkins is on a career path. Has he got 28 goals? He had a fight the other night. Who did he fight that he beat? I was like, what? You would not say he won that fight. With Justin Hall. He beat up Justin Hall. That was impressive. Yamamoto you shouldn't be impressed with, and Dylan Holloway. But Yamamoto's shown he can contribute. Derek Ryan's good, bottom six. The acquisition of Nick Bjugstad only helps them. Ryan McLeod's real good. Fogel's real good. Klim Kostin is everything that you wanted Puya Harvey to be. He's on pace for 20 goals. Why do Canadian teams have this complex? 118 points, 62 games, 52 goals already. Yes, they moved out a lot of points there. Matthias Ekholm can chew up ice time. He's a big man, and he can contribute offensively. 52 goals, 36 goals, 28 goals, 29 goals. What are you talking about? That alone is the best top four probably in hockey. Darnell Nurse, 32 points in 62 games, plus 18, 6'4" monster, athletic. Love Darnell Nurse. Bouchard, now going to run the power play that Tyson Barrie did. He has a bomb of a shot. He only has 3 goals. That should change. And he's a good playmaker. He's a big guy. I like this. That's great. And then you got this guy that's probably like a 60-point player with 25, 30 goals in a normal season. That's a big, like everything you'd want a power forward. Seems to have his head finally screwed on a little bit straight. Ryan McLeod, 10 goals in 49 games, 11 goals in 47 games, 10 goals in 40 games. Those are 320. This is a 20 goal scorer. This is a 17, 18 goal scorer. That's pretty good depth. And then you got another 10 goals from Derek Ryan. This has been a useful player. He's a veteran player that is a really good, useful piece that can play multiple positions. Brett Kulak, I really like. That is a good bottom six defenseman, and he can flex up a little bit to the 4 spot. They got rid of this salary. I do not like Cody Ceci. I've never liked Cody Ceci. He's okay. I think upside with Dylan Holloway long term, he's going to be real good. He's young. He's big. He's talented. He's going to be good. I like Broberg. I love this guy. This guy is everything you'd want. He's mean. He's big. And then you got this huge piece in your run. Do I love the goaltending? I don't love Jack Campbell. I think Stuart Skinner is real good. But who have we gone down here? This is a really good lineup. I think people are sleeping on Edmonton. They're still my pick to. They just have that X factor of a superstar that's motivated, right? He wants to be legend. He will be a legend. That will include cup rings. That's what he's thinking. And the GM's made aggressive moves to help him out. Yeah, that was crazy. He should be considered Rocky. That was shocking. That's a much bigger guy, right? Nigel Hopkins surprised me. Maybe it's the pointy nose. I don't know. Something in his face says little child. No. They are just ramping up. They have 30 wins. 33 wins? There's something about, I mean, first of all, they were neck and neck early with our friends, the Calgary Flames. They are no longer. They have leapfrogged Winnipeg, who are ahead of them. They have 74 points, 33 wins, and 21 losses. What am I missing here? Why does this seem like 74 points in the East is not a wild card? So we keep talking about how great the East is, and it is. There's really good teams over there, and they've loaded up on players. 74 points. It's okay. It is wild card. Geez, barely. 33 wins. Yeah, East is strong. Never mind. I take it back. But they have, look at this: 73 points to 74. They have one more point than Colorado, the Stanley Cup champions. They're within 2 points of Minnesota and 5 points of Dallas. Vegas, you got to think 7, 1, and 2. What? They're 4 points of Vegas. They're 4 points of Los Angeles. And I think they will leapfrog Seattle very shortly. Seattle, I see falling out here. Seattle's going to be in tough, but I think they will retain a wild card spot. I don't see Calgary doing anything here. But I think Edmonton pops up. And so they're all very close. 237 goals for. 206 against. If they get a Saros, you got to think that's something else. Yeah, Bonino's useful. He's consistent. He's a veteran. That's not happening. Yeah, well, I was trying to think about that. That's not Detroit's game, right? Maybe. They're doing everything, guys. They haven't had a Vander Kane all year. They're going to... What? Yeah, they're going to finish strong. Exactly. They are a team that always finishes strong. Connor McDavid always finishes strong. They care about the playoffs. They're trying to stay healthy, stay in playoff contention, collect some trophies along the way for McDavid. Then they hit the playoffs, and they're going to be very, very serious, I believe. You look at head-to-head matchups, they should be very good. And if they make a move for a Saros, holy moly. No matter which of the goalies they replace, Campbell or Skinner, that is an upgrade probably. He's not a traditional big goalie, but we know he is very good and he will steal games. This would make sense for Vegas, Seattle, whatever. I don't see how that helps them. I don't think it would. I think in Vegas, it might actually help them. Well, crazy. So there will be a playoff recap tonight, right? Is that 3:00? I think that's what RJ said. We do appreciate when you hit like and subscribe. RJ, where did you posted here somewhere? What time? Here we go. 4:00 Eastern time. NHL recap trade deadline. We're kind of within 20 minutes of it, so I guess we'll see if there's any final deals or not. We saw Domi was traded to the Stars by the Blackhawks. The Senators traded. Senators got Chychrun. Pretty good move. Made them arguably one of the best defenses in the NHL. I mean, Shabbat, Chychrun, Jake Sanderson. You're not even talking about, you got a young Bernard Docker in the mix somewhere. He's going to be up eventually, but for now, you got Brandstrom somewhere in the mix. But right now, they got Zub. That's a damn good defense. Bruins signing of Pasternak to the 8-year deal. What do you think of that? It was $90 million. Did Yarncroc get traded? No. Why did I just see Yarncroc? What was that all about? Huh. Maybe I was imagining things. Yeah, the Jonathan Quick trade's intriguing. Vegas would make a lot of sense because you don't know what's going on with Mark Stone. Enertap thinks he'll be back by the playoffs, but they could use that offense. Jets wouldn't be a bad fit. Kraken, I don't get it. Relax, Kraken. He's just another piece that's going to get buried, I think. What happened when I had an unfortunate accident in the rain. I was at if you know, in LA, it's been torrential raining on and off for like a week and a half. And we were out a week ago tomorrow night. Sounds right. Maybe it's tonight. And we were at our friend's house, and they said, hey, the front steps are very, very dangerous. They're very slippery. I made it down the steps, no problem. But at the end, there was like a little curve of stone, and the water was coming, and my foot came out from under me, and I went down like this, and I basically don't know how, but there's a flower bed, no flowers in it, just brick. It's just brick in my face. I landed on it like this, and I was like, I didn't get my hands up. I don't know how I didn't break it. Miracle. Absolute miracle. Good question. I don't know if they know yet. You know, he to me was really in contention to be rookie of the year. May still be. The injury is not great, but even if he is or isn't, like having Jonathan Quick there is a good thing for Vegas. And they could use another forward like a JVR, someone that can score. JVR in Vegas might do really well. Might be really useful. And if Mark Stone comes back, that's a different scenario. And Enertap seems to think that he'll be like a Kucherov type thing where he comes back for the playoffs and his money's off the books, right? Maybe it's the best thing. He's got the back injury. Whew. They did, and they got Zach McEwen. You think so? Yeah, Zach McEwen. I don't know. They have not impressed me. The goaltending situation's a mess. There's some tumult, it seems, coming from the dressing room with Sutter. Ooh, the first GM to be fired. Well, we know it's not going to be in Nashville. He fired himself. He's retiring. So we got Barry Trotz there. I mean, who's done a bad job? Rutherford's assessed and is rebuilding Vancouver. Klingberg is junk. I don't know. He looks terrible in Anaheim. Anaheim's got a new GM in Pat Verbeek. I think the coach will be gone, hopefully at some point. Who? Indeed. Let's just take a look at this. It's a great question. Which GM will be fired first? Is there a problem in Carolina? It doesn't seem like it. They're young. Their best players are still young. They've had a great year. Hopefully, for them, they'll make at least win one playoff round. New Jersey's doing great defenseman or great general manager. Who New Jersey leapfrogged Detroit. Tom Fitzgerald has proven he is an excellent general manager, not going anywhere. Drury's done a great job. They've leapfrogged Detroit. It wasn't that long ago they were in the basement and getting the first overall pick. That was weird, but Boston GM ain't going anywhere. Probably Toronto, because Toronto won't win anything. They managed to pull out a win last night. If Toronto makes it to the first round, does Kyle Dubas keep his job? I think that's it, right? yeah. Intertap just said the exact same thing I said. I just saw that. Correct. I agree with you guys. So you look at that. That makes sense, right? Tampa ain't going anywhere. Pittsburgh, I think they've done a pretty good job. Their goalie's healthy. They've won 4 in a row. Islanders, Lou Lamoriello, not bad. I don't think he's going anywhere. Buffalo's done a phenomenal job no matter what. Ottawa's done a pretty awesome job no matter what. Florida is chaos, right? On wheels. Florida made a terrible coaching decision. This was a terrible coaching decision. Does Zito keep his job? Oh, Fletcher's got to go. I mean, how does this guy even have a job? I don't get it. You fire Ron Hextall, and that's the guy you put in, but that was the stupidest decision. Ron Hextall had rebuilt that team. Carter Hart was on his way. Young defensemen are on their way. Joel Farabee and Travis Konechny, those are Ron Hextall guys. Couturier, real good player. He's just been hurt. Fletcher's decisions like Ristolainen? Hayes? What are you doing? Finishing the year? Why would he be in question? They made it to the 3rd round of the playoffs last year. They're stacked. He's brought in great players like Zach Hyman. I don't get that. Why? He made the move to improve the goaltending with whatever you think of. He got maybe the best free agent goaltender, and Jack Campbell was available. And he was right. It turns out about Jacob Markstrom, I was wrong. I thought, why wouldn't you grab this guy? No, Markstrom's still crazy. I don't know. They always think he's going to. Why would he move? Minnesota's loading up on some players, right? They made some moves to improve their team. I think they could go far. They got a very good coach. Bill Guerin's done a real good job there. They got a superstar in Kaprizov. They're getting miles out of Hartman again. Why would you move Dumba? That makes no sense to me. Spurgeon, he's old. He's older than Dumba by 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, something like that. Minnesota in the playoffs, guys. Why would you move your second or third? You got Brodin, Dumba. Boldy's turned out real well. Kalen Addison, -18, not amazing. However, 28 points in 57 games as a rookie defenseman, not bad. Spurgeon, the captain, +25. We do not give this guy credit for being what he is. He's a pretty darn good player. Connor Dewar, we love to see the former captain of the Everett Silvertips. I mean, these numbers are not great for Dumba. But who do you replace him with? I mean, I think you really hurt your team if you move him out. You got Addison, Spurgeon, Dumba, Brodin. That's the top 4, right? There's a big drop off after that. I don't know. It's a weird one. How many miles are you getting out of Zuccarello? Holy smokes. This has worked out incredibly well. Good year for Eriksson Ek. Look at that. 21 goals, 47 points. Surprisingly, a -7. How does a team have so many minuses that is such a good team? The Gustafsson move's been real good. Is he the 2nd or 3rd best statistically goalie in the NHL? 930 save percentage at 206 goals against average, 16-8. Fleury, the veteran. I don't know. I don't know why he'd move down, but I think that would hurt them. Yeah, but it was not surprising, and I think as we assessed, he's UFA, but I don't know, like that would really hurt them for a team that's going in thinking they have a shot in the playoffs. He can really help them. Bertuzzi, will not fit in the future. You could see. Berggren, 12th goal last night. He's on pace for 22, 24 goals as a rookie. If this guy played since the beginning of the year, would have been absolutely, in my opinion, in the contention for it. He might have outscored, Benners. Soderblom should be in the NHL, and he's a 20-goal scorer. So we can see when we go through that lineup, they didn't need Vrana. Robbie Fabry's done everything they need for that position. He's done really well. Hopefully he remains healthy. Bertuzzi, they play without him all year. Soderblom coming in. You still got Casper coming in. And now you got 4 first-round draft picks in the next 2 years. You got 5 or 4 second-round draft picks in the next 2 years. So you got prospects, you got potential with, the assets, and you pretty much have the same lineup intact aside from Filip Hronek, which you can understand. They could not move Ben Sherratt. And as wonky as a year as he's had, and even though he's an older player, they gave him a no movement clause. They signed Mantha, they signed Wallman. They made their bet. And they're looking at Hronek and saying he's going to get $7 million. He doesn't fit in our salary cap structure, even though he's 25. Agreed. He had no business. He had a terrific camp. You could see he destroyed the AHL last year. If you look at he was so good in the AHL. He went back to the AHL, did the same thing, came up for a reason when guys were hurt, and he has not missed a beat. He broke your heart more than anything staying in Colorado more than enough times. I don't know why he would move. Where is he going to go that's better than Toronto? Toronto has 5 king pieces right now, right? If they can retain Ryan O'Reilly for a reasonable contract, which I think they can, he's got a lot of hockey still in him. If you have Tavares, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, O'Reilly, you could win a lot of hockey the next 5-10 years. Like at least in this 3 years. The only guy that gets old out of that really is Tavares. Took Tampa a long time to win Cup. And now they got 2. And a finals appearance. So they've had 2 finals appearances where they didn't get the Cup and 2 where they did. And that's what you want. And I think keeping that core together makes a ton of sense. I think there is hysteria always in Toronto. It's ridiculous. But if you're Austin Matthews, why would you leave? Where are you going to go that's better than that? He's getting max dough. He gets max love. They protect him. He's got his buddies there. You know, Arizona? LA, maybe. I mean, that was the only one that came to my mind. You go to LA, but I think that's, Arizona makes no sense to me. Who's in playoff contention? Talking about Detroit? I mean, that would be crazy. He's got $35 million. Stevie Yzerman. Can you imagine? Number 1 center, Austin Matthews. Number 2 center, Dylan Larkin. Sider, Edvinson. That changes complexion of Detroit real fast, right? Woo! Holy moly. That would be crazy. Well, I think, what we assessed was this. They have a no movement clause with Ben Sherratt. He's the most expensive defenseman. They're going to have to pay Mo Seider at some point here. Although they have another year of restricted, of an entry-level contract, and he's still restricted after that. But they're going to pay him. Probably the same contract that Larkin got. That's my guess. He's all world. I mean, this is going to be a top 5 defenseman in the NHL, right? You signed Wallman for 3.4. You signed Mantha for $3 million. So your top four, you're saying there is that group of four. Sherratt, better or worse, is in that mix, and they play him on the right side. I like Hronek. He's making 5.5 million. He's 25 years old. He plays 21 minutes a game. He does everything well. He's good offensively. He is arguably the second best defenseman in Vancouver now. Only second maybe to Quinn Hughes. And Quinn's a different type of guy, right? But he creates a second pair that's excellent. Are they better without Hronek? No. However, are they going to pay Hronek $7 million next year, which is probably what he'll get for a second pairing defenseman when they have all that other money tied up? They've got Simon Edmondson coming, who's not going to help them on the right side. They got William Wallander somewhere in the mix. They still have Albert Johansson somewhere in the mix. LA could do it. I mean, LA could figure this out. Man, that would be crazy. So, no. That's not. Arizona's a mess. That's never. I don't see any of that. I don't know. Besser would make sense to me in Colorado if they retained a little bit of money, but we were looking at the money situation, and if they retained a mill, you'd probably want to Brock Besser. He's not a really good centerman. He's been playing wing, so I don't know. They need a centerman in Colorado, so maybe not. God, that would be crazy. Don't get me all hyped up about that. Doesn't make it's never going to happen. If it does, the money's on the table though, right? 35 million. But he's still wait. I mean, come on. Who does he have to play with in Detroit compared to he's going to play with Lucas Raymond? Great, but you got Marner, you got Nylander's super talented no matter what. I hate defensively. He's super talented. If they can retain O'Reilly, they already, they got Tavares. That's a stacked team no matter what way you look at it. Who has those superstars? And they've done a lot to address the other, the bottom six. Toronto's pretty damn good. And you still got Nick Robertson in the mix there. Maybe. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. It's 3 minutes before the hour. Thank you so much for joining. Please hit like and subscribe. We will catch up with you 4 o'clock Eastern time for the trade recap. You never know, but I can't see that. Dubas has not done a bad job. Dubas has built this team around superstars. He's drafted very well late. So if you want to say, oh, Stevie Yzerman drafts late well, yes. Kyle Dubas drafts late and picks really good players that he's then been trading or using in the lineup. There's still a lot of assets in Toronto. Shocking with all the moves they made. No matter what way you look at it. He's got 4 goalies that are actually pretty good. Who knew Kallgren was going to be any good? Joseph Wall has turned into could be a backup at least in the NHL. Ooh, that's terrible. Nick Labatt. Who the heck's that? I don't even know who that is. All right, guys. Have a great day. We will recap trades, and we're going to go check everything out. Thank you for joining. I think we understand what's going on in Detroit now. As much as we hate to see Bertuzzi and Hronek go, the Vrana deal, it is what it is. We're excited to see the young guys coming up, and they have so many draft picks coming up. You know that they're going to do a great job. A lot of teams have leapfrogged Detroit, and I think that's what Stevie Yzerman sees. Ottawa, New York Rangers, LA Kings. Go down the list. There's guys that have leapfrogged them. And he's saying, I need more talent. And that's what this is all about. And he's got some of it coming, and he's going to draft a bunch more. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Enjoy the trade deadline, and we will talk to you later.